This video is about Trick Mirror by Tolentino. This book is a collection of 9 essays, and they all build off the same idea. Tolentino keeps coming back to how modern life pushes people to perform different versions of themselves, whether that's online, at work, in relationships, or even politically. What I like about this book is that Tolentino doesn't force one big answer. She'll start with something personal, then zoom out into history or culture, and somehow connect it back without it feeling random. Every essay stands on its own, but together they all ask the same question. What parts of our lives are actually ours, and what parts are shaped by systems we're just living inside? The first essay is called The I in Internet. In this essay, Tolentino looks at how the internet has changed the way people think about themselves. Instead of just using the internet as a tool, people have become part of what gets consumed online. Social media encourages everyone to constantly present themselves, build a personal image, and chase attention through likes, followers, and engagement. She argues that this doesn't just affect influencers, it changes how almost everyone behaves online. The internet rewards people for being visible, which can make it difficult to separate who we actually are from the version of ourselves we choose to show. This essay questions whether it's even possible to be completely authentic when so much of our lives happen in public spaces online. The second essay is Reality TV Me. Tolentino reflects on her experience appearing in the reality TV show Girls vs. Boys, Puerto Rico, and uses it to examine how entertainment has changed the way people perform their lives. Reality television claims to show real people, but it depends on editing, production, and exaggerating personalities to stay entertaining. She connects that idea to social media, where people also create carefully managed versions of themselves. Rather than arguing that reality TV is fake, she focuses on how it trained people to think of everyday life as something that could always be watched, judged, and turned into entertainment. The third essay is Always Be Optimizing. This essay explores the pressure of constantly improving yourself. In this, Tolentino talks about productivity culture, wellness trends, fitness organization, and self-help, arguing that modern society treats self-improvement like a full-time job. Instead of encouraging people to be satisfied, these industries convince them they always need to work harder, become healthier, or achieve more. She suggests that this endless cycle benefits businesses more than individuals because people continue buying products and advice in hopes of becoming the best version of themselves. The essay questions whether self-improvement has become another form of pressure instead of something genuinely helpful. The fourth essay is called Pure Heroines. Here, Tolentino examines the way girls and women are portrayed in literature and popular culture. She discusses characters who are expected to be innocent, morally perfect, or naturally good, and argues that these expectations don't reflect real people. Society often celebrates women who fit narrow ideals while criticizing those who are flawed, ambitious, or complicated. Through different examples, she shows how these stories shape the expectations placed on women in real life. Instead of asking women to be perfect, Tolentino argues that they should be allowed the same complexity and imperfections that male characters have long been given. The fifth essay is called Ecstasy, and it combines Tolentino's personal experiences with the history of the drug ecstasy, also known as MDMA. While she discusses the drug itself, the essay is really about why people seek intense feelings of connection, joy, and escape. She explores how ecstasy became connected to rave culture and how governments responded to its popularity. Instead of simply arguing for or against the drug, she examines what people's desire for those experiences says about modern life. The essay asks why moments of genuine connection can feel so rare that people sometimes turn to artificial ways of finding them. The sixth essay is The Story of a Generation in 7 Scams. In this one, Tolentino uses 7 different scams to describe the world many young adults have grown up in. Some are obvious scams involving money, but others are larger systems like unpaid internships, the housing market, student debt, and unrealistic promises about success. She argues that many institutions encourage people to believe that hard work will always lead to opportunity, even when those systems often fail them. The essay isn't saying everything is literally scam. Instead, it suggests that many people feel disappointed because they were taught to trust systems that were never designed to work fairly for everyone. The seventh essay is called We Come from Old Virginia. This essay looks at Tolentino's own family history and the complicated stories families tell about themselves. She explores race, privilege, religion, and the legacy of American history through her relatives' experience. Rather than presenting her family's past as simple or heroic, she examines both the good and the uncomfortable parts. The essay shows how identity is shaped not only by personal choices, but also by history, culture, and inherited beliefs. Tolentino argues that understanding the past honestly is necessary if people want to understand themselves in the present. The eighth essay is The Cult of the Difficult Woman. Tolentino discusses the label difficult woman and how it has often been used to dismiss women who challenge expectations. She examines women from literature, history, and popular culture who refuse to be quiet, agreeable, or easy to control. Instead of seeing difficult as an insult, she argues that many of these women were simply refusing to accept unfair treatment or limiting social roles. The essay talks about why confidence and independence are often admired in men but criticized in women, and it challenges readers to rethink how society judges female behavior. The final essay, I Thee Dread, focuses on love, marriage, and long-term commitment. Tolentino reflects on her own engagement while considering how modern relationships are shaped by technology, individualism, and endless choices. Dating apps, social expectations, and changing ideas about marriage have made relationships more complicated than they once seemed. Rather than arguing that marriage is outdated or perfect, she explores why people still choose commitment despite uncertainty. The essay ends the book by asking whether genuine connection is still possible in a world that often encourages people to keep searching for something better instead of appreciating what they already have. It seems the main theme that connects the entire book is authenticity. Throughout the essays, Tolentino explores what it means to be genuine in a world where so much of life feels performative. She argues that things like social media, consumer culture, gender expectations, and even family history all shape the way people see themselves. Rather than separating these topics, she knows how they're connected and how they influence our identities in ways we don't always notice. Instead of offering simple solutions, Tolentino leaves readers with a deeper awareness of the forces that shape everyday life and encourages them to think more intentionally about who they are. Beyond the themes themselves, there are also a few recurring symbols and motifs that help tie the essays together. The title itself, The Trick Mirror, is the book's most important symbol. A trick mirror is a mirror that distorts what you see instead of reflecting reality accurately. Tolentino uses it as a metaphor for modern life. Things like social media, advertising, politics, and even our own memories can change the way we see ourselves and others. Instead of giving us a clear reflection, they exaggerate, hide, or reshape our reality. The title suggests that we live in a culture where it has become difficult to tell what is authentic and what has been distorted. One of the other strongest motifs throughout the book is performance. Nearly every essay explores the idea that people are expected to present carefully crafted versions of themselves. On social media, people perform happiness and success. At work, they perform productivity. In relationships, they perform ideal versions of themselves. Tolentino argues that performance has become part of everyday life, often because society rewards visibility and approval. The internet functions as both a setting and a symbol. It represents connection and opportunity, but also symbolizes surveillance, self-promotion, and constant comparison. Throughout the book, the internet is more than just technology. It becomes a force that shapes identity and influences how people think about themselves. The idea of constantly improving yourself appears throughout multiple essays. Productivity apps, wellness culture, exercise, organization, and self-help all become symbols of a society that encourages people to believe they are never enough. Tolentino suggests that endless self-improvement often serves economic systems more than individual happiness. The scams discussed in one essay become a larger symbol for broken promises in society. They don't only represent financial fraud, they also symbolize institutions that promise fairness, success, or opportunity, but often fail to deliver. Tolentino uses the idea of scams to question whether many social systems are built on unrealistic expectations. Also throughout the essay, expectations placed on women become a recurring motif. Ideas about being likable, beautiful, pure, agreeable, or difficult appear in different forms across the book. Tolentino uses these examples to show how gender roles continue to shape women's experience and limit the ways they are expected to behave. Tolentino also repeatedly uses stories from her own life before expanding into larger cultural analysis. This becomes a structural motif throughout the collection. Her experiences aren't included just as a memoir. They show how individual lives are connected to broader social and political systems. By moving between personal and the universal, she demonstrates that large cultural issues affect ordinary people in everyday ways. The idea of choice also appears a few times, especially in essays about social media, work, and relationships. Modern culture often tells people they have endless freedom to choose, yet Tolentino questions how free those choices really are. Many decisions are shaped by algorithms, economic pressures, cultural expectations, and institutions. This motif reinforces one of the book's central questions: how much control do people actually have over the lives they built? A final recurring motif is contradiction. Tolentino often presents two ideas that seem to conflict but are both true at the same time. She criticizes social media while still using it. She values self-improvement while questioning optimization culture. She recognizes the benefits of modern life while exposing its flaws. Rather than resolving these contradictions, she argues that learning to live with complexity is part of understanding the modern world. There are also different literary devices she has used. One is metaphor. The title itself is an extended metaphor. The trick mirror represents the distorted ways people see themselves through social media, consumer culture, and modern society. Just as a carnival mirror changes a person's reflection, the systems Tolentino discusses reshape people's identities and perceptions of reality. She also uses illusion, reality television, and popular culture. Throughout Reality TV Me and other essays, Tolentino refers to reality television, internet culture, books, historical events, and public figures. These allusions help connect her personal experiences to larger cultural patterns instead of treating them as isolated events. She also uses irony. One ironic idea throughout the collection is that technology was supposed to bring people together, yet it often encourages comparison, performance, and loneliness instead. The very tools designed to connect people can sometimes make authentic connection more difficult. She also uses repetition. Tolentino repeatedly focuses on the first-person perspective, both in her own writing and in discussing internet culture. The repeated emphasis on I reinforces her point that modern culture increasingly centers individual identity and self-presentation. The final is imagery. One of the clearest examples of imagery appears in Ecstasy, when Tolentino describes the atmosphere of raves and dance clubs. Rather than simply stating that people felt connected, she paints a picture of crowded dance floors, loud music, flashing lights, and strangers moving together in the same space. Those sensory details allow readers to imagine the energy of the environment, while also supporting her larger point about why people search for moments of connection and escape. The vivid description isn't just there to create a scene. It helps explain the emotional experience that the essay is exploring. One quote that really connects to the main idea of the book is, "To communicate an identity requires some degree of self-delusion." I think this is basically about how, Whenever we show other people who we are, we're always choosing what parts of ourselves to put forward, especially online. Another quote that stood out to me is, "Even as we became increasingly sad and ugly on the internet, the mirage of the better online self continued to glimmer." I think this connects reality well to the title, because a mirror is supposed to show reality, but a trick mirror changes what you see. Tolentino is saying the internet can do something similar. It shows us this ideal version of ourselves that we feel like we should become, even if that version isn't actually realistic or even harmful. And then at the end of the book, she says, "I'm in the end. The safest conclusions may not actually be conclusions." I think this fits the whole book because Tolentino isn't trying to tell people, this is the answer. She's more showing different parts of modern life and making you question them. A lot of the topics she talks about don't have easy solutions, and I think that's kind of the point.